Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Friday, May 22nd, 2026. I'm David Menzies, and joining me as my co-host from beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, well, as long as you avoid East Hastings Street, it is Drea Humphrey. How are you doing there, Drea?
I'm doing so good. I mean, yesterday in our meeting, it was asked, like, how's the weather out in BC? Well, people were still getting there, and it's like hot, and it has been for a while, so I can't complain out here.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And our special guest, because it is the roundtable on a Friday, well, sometimes she's just a little grandmother in Medicine Hat, Alberta, minding her own business. Other times she's public enemy number one on Canada's most wanted list. I speak of Tamara Lich, currently Rebel's Freedom Ambassador. How you doing there, Tamara?
I am doing awesome. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. Thanks for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure. And we have a packed show. And, speaking of BC, Drea, we have a lot of BC topics on the docket. But before we get into the meat of the matter, I think you want to lay down the rules of engagement for our viewers who would like to contribute.
That's right. This is the Rebel Roundtable, which means it's my favorite type of live stream to participate in because you guys can participate in. Well, you can do that on all of our lives, but we have the panel, like a guest, like Tamara Lich, as we have today. But if you want to join in, if you have anything to say about what we're saying, if you want to break news because we're busy live streaming, you can do so in a fun way by, if you're on YouTube, you can leave us a super chat. And you can just give your comment. And if you donate $5 or more towards our journalism, we incorporate that in the show. If you catch this after and you still want to keep the lights on at Rebel News, you can donate via Super Thanks. And if you're, of course, joining us on Rumble News, our free speech champions over there, you can leave us a Rumble rant to become a part of the show. And we really appreciate all the support that we get, of course, to stay alive.
There you go. And Drea, speaking of East Hastings Street, I see we have a story from Blacklock's reporter. Wow. A failed experiment with decriminalization has left British Columbia with the lowest public support of any province for public health when it comes to drug addiction. Yeah, so you know what? It's kind of like the 1971 Ford Pinto. Look good on paper, but don't get into a rear-end accident with it. Drea, this is kind of almost as newsworthy as reporting there's salt water in the Pacific Ocean. But maybe you can take our viewers through the history of this. Why is it that when we have people addicted to dangerous drugs, the solution is to give them more dangerous drugs?
Well, I certainly can't tell you why, but I think they've got it right here. It's a failed experiment, and that's what we were doing on our vulnerable people. Often they have mental health issues and, of course, addiction combined. And so this solution of giving what they call safer drugs has always been experimental. It's gone so far away from what we've done in the past and what we know has worked in the past. I mean, if you look at some of the most credible and things that have worked well. If you look at the AA system or something, the success that they have, of course, they don't take any government money. Funny how that works. So to move away from this model where you just give people more of what they want or more of what they don't want so they can go sell it to someone else and then get what they really want. It's just been sick. And I used to actually work a lot with people with co-occurring disorders. And I actually am a fan of something that Polyev had said that he would do actually if he had became the leader, and that was to change, almost to incentivize these places that are supposed to be caring for such individuals, and do that by, hey, if you are actually keeping people clean, if you have this record where like they go to your place and you keep them clean for like 1, 2, 3 years, guess what? You get more funding. Yes. And I think that would be a simple way instead of what I know has happened over the years, where it's this fear of losing funding and not speaking out against something as obviously a horrible idea as this. You got to be quiet or you'll be losing your funding if you don't participate in this scam. So
it is a scam, and it's a dangerous scam. And, Tamara, I mean, when I look at Alberta, under Premier Smith, it's more of a tough love approach. And I think that's the right way to go. I mean, the last time I was on East Hastings Street was last July. I got to tell you, I did not feel safe in broad daylight. There was, and I'm not trying to be funny or cruel, but it looked like the set for The Walking Dead. And I said, good golly, how is this improving the life of these people? The poor merchants, where they have these campers sitting out on sidewalks. But, really, for their health and safety and ours, shouldn't we be, as I said, engaging in tough love to shut this down?
Absolutely. And I don't even think that this experiment looked good on paper. Now, one thing that you guys don't know about me is that I was raised in the Alcoholics Anonymous program, basically, not in the program, but my father is a recovering alcoholic. So we spent a lot of time going to campouts and roundups. And so I knew right away, as soon as they started announcing this decriminalization program, that it was completely wrong. Better from a more tough love approach. All you're doing is contributing to more suffering, and giving drug addicts more drugs is definitely not going to solve the problem. And it's not just the drug problem. Like you said, David, it's the quality of life also. Like, what kind of a quality of life do these people have? So in that respect, I'm really proud of Premier Smith for shutting this nonsense down here in Alberta, for sure.
And Tamara, it's kind of grist for the mill for what I thought last year was the most overlooked, underreported story. Certainly Pierre Poilievre on the campaign trail mentioned it. It was a Privy Council report that predicted a dystopian Canada in 2040. That's 14 years away by my math, where the rich have either fled or live in secure gated communities, and the rest of us are forced to forage, fish, and hunt illegally just for the bare necessities of life. And when you see these drug-addicted homeless encampments, I would argue 2040 is already here in some areas of this country.
Let me add one scary thought to that, and this has crossed my mind, and that is linked to MAID. We all know that the Liberal government, with their eugenics plan, in my opinion, wants to expand MAID for the sole reason being mental health. How is that going to impact these people when they go to their so-called supports and MAID will be offered to them when they're clearly not in their right mindset, but they qualify for the sole reason often in this case? I think that is going to hit that community really hard. And I think we're already seeing everybody being impacted by addiction, from a loved one, from a friend. And I think when MAID applies to people with mental health, you watch how many people are going to be horribly impacted by that.
Oh, I think you're right, Drea. I think this is prepping people for MAID, which in some circumstances might look like an upgrade in terms of their lifestyle. I hate to say that.
That's horrible.
Yep.
Now, moving on.
That's a heavy start. Oh my gosh.
And Tamara, I'd love to hear your take on this, you being of Métis heritage. But again, from Blacklocks, evidently First Nations leaders have told Parliament they should criminalize Indian residential school denialism, just as it has outlawed willful downplaying of the Holocaust. Well, I can tell you, in the streets of Toronto last 2.5 years, no one, downplaying the Holocaust is very fashionable in certain circles. The same people who are actually chanting for the genocide for a new Holocaust as they deny the original one. But Tamara, it's all about the nuance, and no one knows this better than Drea, and I'll get to her opinions given her documentary regarding Kamloops. The 250 plus alleged children that are buried in a mass grave to this day there has not been one scintilla of forensic evidence. Nothing, not a bone fragment, not a DNA sample to validate that number. And yet, I see people and politicians getting fined, losing their jobs, being cancel cultured just for questioning that number. Surely this can't be entertained. I mean, this is the real denialism of the truth.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. I think this whole thing is utter nonsense. Look, when in the history of anywhere have we had what they're trying to describe as a murder scene and not done an investigation or an exhumation? You know, they haven't even purchased a shovel. And I believe they've received over $12 million from taxpayers in order to get to the bottom of this. But, you know, it's been 5 years and there's still nothing. Nobody denies the existence of residential schools. Nobody denies that. I mean, that's a part of Canadian history, and everyone knows that. What we don't ever hear are all the good stories that came out of it. There were
Yes.
First Nations parents that lobbied to have their children sent to these schools.
Correct.
In any situation, in every situation, there's unfortunate things that happen and terrible things that happen, and they shouldn't happen. But I mean, you can't paint the entire residential school system with that brush, which is exactly what they're trying to do. So nobody's denying they existed. But we sure would like to see some movement forward on these supposed 215 graves that don't seem to exist.
Indeed. And, you know, Drea, it's a third rail in Canada now, isn't it? I mean, just last month I reported on Pickering councillor Lisa Robinson. She now has an integrity complaint against her simply for questioning how many are actually buried there. Even if there is anyone buried there, she's facing a 3-month salary suspension. I bet you a donut right now that will go through. And it's basically sending... It's almost like libel chill. It's keep your mouth shut on this issue or you're going to pay. What do you make of it? Because you've done incredible investigative work on this issue.
Well, yeah, I think it's evidence to support that this most likely is the greatest hoax we've ever seen in Canadian history. And aiding in that hoax to a big degree has been the media. I mean, on May 27th, that will be the 5th year anniversary where this claim that came out and, you know, it spread like wildfire. I should say it spread like church fires. It changed everything. In fact, shortly after you had Parliament saying, okay, residential school system was a system of genocide, which is also false. And I just want to say, like, the media has been a part of this. Part of the reason why you still have people like Robinson getting in trouble is because the state media has never set the record straight. I just shared a title, an article from the Globe and Mail. And just how do you come up with an article like with a title like this 5 years later? It's still implicating like somehow it's denialism to want the truth on this issue. It says that the Kamloops uncertainty over unmarked graves gives rise to doubt and denialism. It's like, you know what? Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, like, there are few answers, but I mean, there's a simple solution to finding the answers.
Exactly.
Get an excavator in there and a forensics team and start digging.
But why would you if there was already plans there that show you that it's not an unmarked grave, that it's actually a septic plot, and you got millions of dollars and took those millions of dollars because that claim came out? It's such a big scandal, and they're not the only band that's gotten away with this scandal. Of course, they're the ones that are at the face of it. And when I questioned the chief about, like, you know, why aren't you excavating? It was pretty much, well, we don't have to. We'll let you know if we do. And it's 5 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Unreal.
That would make their case if they did an excavation and you found all these skeletal remains. But I think you ladies are right. They know there's no there.
Yeah.
You know.
How could they not at this point? I mean, of course, maybe there could be something. Why wouldn't you dig to prove it? Like, why wouldn't you, if all this pressure is against you? But the evidence is overwhelming that it is something else.
So the big question.
Well, it's no different than. Sorry, Dave. I was just going to say that the thing is, you know, if there's a serial killer and he's burying bodies in his backyard, what's the first thing that they're going to do? The very first thing the police are going to do is to go in and try to find those bodies. So the fact that it's almost 5 years later and still nothing has been done, other than talking, you know, about criminalizing denialism and all the things that hurt people's feelings, there's really nothing that's been accomplished or done here other than we keep just sending them more taxpayer money.
Oh, and the propaganda. Let's not forget the CBC and our Aboriginal news, both state-backed, coming together for that joint operation that seems to be unraveling, where they, you know, it looks like they brought Dr. Frances Whittleson, who's probably the most outspoken critic of these falsehoods, to try to make her look racist. They spent, we don't know how much money doing that to her, to other people. And the thing that they all have in common is that they were willing to just speak some really simple truths, which is, you know, yeah, horrible things have happened there, but the whole system wasn't created for genocide, and it wasn't all horrific. And I don't know why people can't handle the truth. But the truth sets you free. That's a good thing. These communities that have believed this lie, it's heartbreaking to them. They're angry. They're so upset when their own leaders have made it look like there's a bunch of dead, murdered kids buried under their land, and they never got any justice. So they're enraging their own people.
And the other point of enragement, I think, it's now entered the lexicon of things you cannot talk about in Canadian politics, right up there with supply management and public health care with no kind of privatized competition. I just wonder how long this will go. But, you know, Tamara, to your point about the police wanting leads so they can dig up these graves. And again, going back to the BC in the 80s, with regard to one of the most repugnant individuals that ever lived in our Dominion, I speak of Clifford Olson. Remember that? The police paid him he didn't get it, his wife got it, $100,000, to which he quipped, I'll never forget this, he offered them 11 names, and what he said of children that he buried, it was $10,000 a corpse, and I gave them one on the house. Do you remember that?
Oh my God.
And
I didn't know that.
So the point is, there is even financial incentive for people to come forward with information about buried remains. Why isn't that happening right now?
The BC Coroners has never looked into this. This is an area where Indigenous women and children have been going missing in recent years. And they claim to have discovered bodies and no one investigates it properly. The RCMP don't want to see if those are not like that they're from this history. It's insane. I remember when I did the documentary, there had just been remains found like 2 months earlier just near that area. And it turned out that one of the remains were animal and the other was related to a human. Why would you not investigate just for that sole reason of ruling out, like, wait a sec, who's actually buried here if there's people buried here? It's insane. And then, you know what, one more thing, it points out how little accountability and transparency the country, the province as a whole gets when the band government is in control. So we're giving all of this money, but we get nothing back when we're just asking simple questions. And when you carry that over to the property rights and Aboriginal titles and these agreements going to these band governments that are so powerful that when the whole world is like, hey, we think you lied here, could you at least give us some evidence that what you said was true? They're like, we don't have to. So it's pretty concerning.
You know what, Drea, you're 100% right. But the problem is, if there is a dig and it shows that this is a hoax, then so much for all this manufactured victimhood, right? That's what this is really all about. And it's 100%. All, you know, certain people in the Native community going, yes, but what about the mass burial at Kamloops, which I doubt exists.
And to be fair, I get emails all the time saying, thank you for your work. I'm a band member. We're so upset that this is happening. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to them because they know the same things we know. And they know they didn't want all this negative attention because their band government won't be transparent. So
incredible. Well, totally switching gears, but again, staying in British Columbia, Drea. Here's a really interesting story. I can't quite figure it out. A Saanich, BC man has pleaded guilty in what police describe as the most prolific voyeurism case ever prosecuted in Canada, involving 652 women and girls secretly recorded over a 6-year period across Greater Victoria. Now, ladies, please don't ask me how I know this, but in this day and age where there are websites like YouPorn and Pornhub, why would you go to all this trouble to get racy, naked images of people who are clearly not consenting when anyone with a computer or a cell phone, you have that treasure trove of riches, such as it is for some people. I just don't get this, especially given that if these charges hold up, you're going to be in a cell where I don't think the view is going to be all that nice at all.
Well, I think the answer is getting off on the crime, not the crime, but the violation, right? Like it's about a participant who's not willing and dominating that participant. I can never say the word. I want to say like onagolophilia. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but it's why, like, we see the connection between males who are serial killers dressing up as women. It's like they get off on sort of that dominance over women. So I think that's what that is. But what stood out to me here is that this individual, like, what are the circumstances where he was able to get that many voyeurism cases and catch that many women? And if you read the article, it does talk about him being caught in a woman's change room or capturing them in a woman's change room. So my mind goes to, was this individual presenting as a woman? That's the first thing I'm thinking, because women typically are a little bit more on guard when a man walks in there. So what took so long then for this to be caught? If a man comes in, most women are going to cover up naturally. They're going to go into the change room. They're going to be on guard. They're going to take their kids away. So how was he getting all of these indecent footage? That's my question.
Drea, I would argue these days it isn't that hard. You don't even have to dress up. And Tamara, where I'm going with this, we've had some recent stories about this new trend. I think it's despicable, of universal change rooms going into community centers. Right. So men and women change in the same facility. They shower in the same facility. I think you're laying down the groundwork for a pervert's paradise when it comes to things like this. And ladies, the technology is such that you can have like tiny little recording devices, embedded in glasses or a necktie or a teddy bear, and it's going to record everything. So isn't this yet another argument to stop this madness of these universal change rooms?
Oh, it absolutely is. I can't believe 652. Is that what he was?
Something like that. Yeah.
That's a lot.
652.
That
victims.
is a lot. Yeah, victims. That is insanity. I think, first of all, I think that the multi-gender change rooms is literally asking for trouble, because the men that are going to use or take advantage of that are not typically there's going to be a reason why they're going to take advantage of that, if you know what I'm saying. Yes. Because I think that most men would choose not to.
Yeah. And when you talk about technology, David, like my husband at first, he was like, oh, you're so paranoid or whatever, because I don't let our youngest son, like, I can't go into the change room with him anymore. So I'm always like, do not use the urinals. Like, I'm like, these men can have sunglasses or glasses on that are recording you. And right. Like, so my husband goes in and he's like, my son won't use a urinal. You're so paranoid. I just, out of curiosity, went online to see how many cases have been caught where people are going, men, into urinals and recording these little boys. And there's tons out there. And I gave it to him. Shut my husband up real quick.
Wow.
But times are different with technology. So people do have to be more aware of that, especially for their kids running around into the park, outside of the park, going into those public bathrooms. I would say do not let your kids use the urinal under any circumstances.
Yeah, and to your original point, Drea, I mean, when it comes to technology, pornography, for example, has never, ever been more accessible and even free. But I think you're right. I think the people that conduct this voyeurism, it's the thrill of the hunt. It's the specter of getting caught that gives them a rush. I mean, I don't have those tendencies, so I'm only guessing, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me in this day and age.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, you know what? We're at the halfway mark, ladies, so we have to take an ad break, and we'll come back to the East Coast. And, Tamara Lich, you're going to like this. The Ottawa Police Service is in the news again. I hope that doesn't trigger any PTSD memories, but we'll pick up that story on the other side, folks.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's byrna.ca/rebel.
Canada's been told to just quit smoking for decades, same message over and over, and yet millions of Canadians still smoke. So let's ask a follow-up question. For those who don't quit, what about change? In 2026, Canada has options that didn't exist years ago. Smoke-free alternatives for adults who would otherwise continue smoking. That doesn't mean risk-free, it means informed choice. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, quit. But for those who don't quit, change could still be part of the conversation. That's why Canadians should check out unsmoke.ca, an information resource focused on smoke-free alternatives and honest facts, not judgment. Put the lighter down, Canada. Learn what your options are.
Gun bans make great distraction.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right. I love my Freedom Passport. I have it. And also, I'm a fan of the Rumble wallet. I'm a fan of, all the good stuff that Rumble has done over the years towards freedom, especially freedom of speech. But this one's a little different. So this is from Rumble Wallet. One of our sponsors says, "We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all the complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me. I'm actually not on it. So like Rebel News, I'll put there. Directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some.
Drea, I love our friends at Rumble, a true free speech platform. Just this morning, I was speaking to our friend Jay Bannister, former Toronto police officer, now runs Mad Lab Press, and he was complaining that almost immediately, like within minutes or a few hours, videos he's posting in YouTube get taken down based on complaints from the Toronto police. Many of his videos focus on the ongoing corruption with our police service. And I told him about Rumble. He hadn't heard of it. I was surprised, but he's now going to look into that because there is way more tolerance. And by the way, when I say his videos are taken down, it's not due to defamation. It's not due to libel. It's just a complaint from somebody in the brass. It's outrageous that YouTube bends the knee, especially being based in the nation that has the First Amendment. But that is the case. So folks, please, if you have to choose a platform, go to Rumble for it really is the true free speech platform. Now, before we get to the Ottawa Police video, I understand from super producer Olivia Drea, you have another BC story or two that you'd like to mention.
Okay, yes, just please give me a few minutes. And I think this is interesting to everyone, whether they're in BC or not, because BC is kind of like the litmus test for how fast Canada can go downhill. I mean, look at our property rights. Look how beautiful our economy could be out here, but isn't. So pay attention. I think whoever does become the next premier is a big deal in Canada. And our Premier David Eby, you know, especially over this land right issue, it seems that they're going down fast. So the leadership race for the Conservative Party of British Columbia seems to be a very big deal. They almost won. They lost by 1 seat last election. And now, like I said, with the NDP not doing as well as before, it does seem like members could potentially be voting in the next premier. Now, what happened originally was Carolyn Elliott was sort of perceived as who would be likely to win in the earlier races. And then somewhat of an underdog, not completely. It appears the favorite is Carrie Lynn Finley, a former Conservative MP. And people believe, members, a lot of them believe that she is the best Conservative running. Okay, that's kind of, I think, why she's doing so popular. Some would say she's the only. Whether that's true or not, I've brought you very balanced reporting, and of course, I've asked other people running what they think about that, and they have all said that at our special website called bcleadershipreports.com. But so I just wanted to give you that background. Now we see Rob Shaw put out a piece in that tweet that I shared. I have the link to Rob Shaw's article that just dropped and is driving people crazy in some ways and hysteria, because just before voting was about to start, and I believe like the day of the final verification, his article comes out, and it's showing that there's been this these allegations made on her about her campaign a year ago. Now, they're serious allegations. The allegations is that there has been $750,000 spent or not reported, and that there has been approximately 50 foreign nationals working on the campaign. So this just drops as she's getting all this momentum, as you see so many people saying she's my number one on the ranked ballot, etc. And all of a sudden, it gets into the news that a year later after her campaign, these huge allegations are coming in. We've since learned that the complaint was brought forward in April. There's so much to go through. I will say an account on X called The Remanded has done a good job at following the money. And so if you're interested in that, just showing sort of an overlay and connection with people who helped during Carrie Lynn Finley's campaign, now working under Carolyn Elliott. So some people are jumping to conclusions, oh, it must be Elliott's team. Not necessarily, but my question is, well, are they aware if these allegations are true? And then now they're over with Elliott, so what does that mean? So it raises a lot of questions, but certainly a lot of the other candidates have something to gain about the timing of this. We see that Carrie Lynn Finley, if you click on my tweet and you look at my second tweet, did put out a statement, and that statement said that, hey, this is all news to her. She had no clue she was supposedly being investigated, and they reached out and they're still not getting answers about her investigation, making it even more eyebrow raising, and, you know, claiming that it's not true, but she doesn't even know what it is. And so that was her response to it. Mr. Shaw has since come out and said, you know, I think he's getting a bit of backlash. He's calling it bots. I just think it's Conservative members, but he's saying I did speak to the complainant. they put the complaint out in April. That's the most of what he said recently. And then we got today we got a post. I'm trying to run you and keep you up to speed, but we got a post from Carrie Lynn Finley. I got it sent to me as media, and then people got it emailed, and I shared that earlier. But that has made a lot of people go, oh my gosh, voting is on the 23rd, so this weekend. And is she backing out of the race? So if we show that, it just says there's going to be an announcement at the legislature from her team. So again, the timing is making people go, oh my gosh, like, did they really find some evidence? Again, none of those allegations have been proven. We don't know even if something did happen. Did she have anything to do with it? So all I can say is update-wise, I have received, because I thought, are you backing out? And I'm going to talk about this in the live stream. So I'm told she is not backing out of the race. And so that is not what it's about. It looks like it's more about clarity on these allegations, these timely allegations when people have to pick their number 1 to number 5, or only 1, 2, 3, whatever they wish.
Well,
so, yeah.
I think, ladies, the big question for me is that even if she is found guilty of these allegations, and as you said, Drea, nothing is being proven yet, and you're not guilty until proven otherwise, will they stick? Does this, derail her campaign? What I'm getting at is the Canadian voter now so cynical that the idea of saying, oh, you know what, this politician has dabbled in corruption. What else is new? That fish like to swim? I mean, what do you think, Tamara? We saw with the Trudeau government, the constant ethics violations, and you just pay a little fine and pass go, and it's like nothing ever happened. So what say you?
Well, I would say that what I have come to learn through my experience is that there is nothing that is done by politicians or Elections Canada or elections, whatever, that is not by design. Every memo that comes out, every word in that memo, the day of the week that it's dropped, the time of day that it's dropped, everything that they do has a purpose behind it. And I agree with Drea, it's very suspect that this all of a sudden came out, mere days before voting starts in the BC leadership race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just one more thing to that, the wording is her campaign. Like if you look at who's investigating her, the independent, they're saying her campaign, but of course it all sits with her. And I just want to point out, corruption is important. I think I was amongst the very few, if not the only conservative journalist, who covers mostly conservative angle on things, to call out the Rustad Conservative Party. I took 3 months to investigate those allegations of Indo-Packing at the AGM, and I was the only journalist who, told people the truth on that situation, those serious allegations. So that takes time to prove, but the timing of this coming out, it's very suspicious to me.
Andrea, you raised an important point, and I have to confess ignorance because I'm not following BC politics as closely as you are. But if you were an undecided voter in the presence of Miss Finley, what is her 30-second elevator pitch, if you will? What are her maybe 3 main platforms or planks in her platform that she would say, if premier or if we elect government, this is what we do differently?
Well, that's funny that you say that. I should say, based on what I'm seeing in the comments, this has almost seemed to solidify number 1 for a lot of people who already felt like she was the conservative. They're very suspicious about the timing. They feel like it's an attack against her and it's making them want to vote for her more. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the people that were already on other camps criticizing it heavily, which is interesting. But my promise to you is I will get to the bottom of it either way. But to your question about, was it more what should she do in this situation, or...
Yeah, what would be her pitch to the undecided?
Her pitch. How does she differ? Well, the crazy thing is they're not differing much. And I used to say, like, as I was covering, I was like, oh, it's kind of nice to see they're not fighting that much. They're all wanting to get rid of Soji. They're all wanting to get rid of Dripa. They're all singing Kumbaya. Well, come to find out, which I didn't know, is that's a very common thing that you'll see during a ranked voting system because, and it's so complex for me to explain, but if it's a ranked preferential ballot, you will see candidates be more kinder to each other overall than what you're used to than if not. And it's something about you wanting to be their second, because if you like vilify this person so much, then they're going to hate you and they're not going to put you on second. So that's something else I just learned. But how does she differ? I think on the land rights, she for sure differs because she was a lawyer that at one point 50% of her legal work that she was doing became Aboriginal law because she, like others, were living under the Musqueam ban, which, by the way, that's the other big Aboriginal title claim we know for Greater Vancouver that we're waiting to see the results on. So she actually represented, I want to say, around 100 families that had some sort of lease agreement, and then it got very unfair and the band was just making them pay all of the, I believe it was taxes, and they couldn't afford it and they were losing their equity. She successfully represented them, and she had another successful case related to Aboriginal land rights. So none of them have that type of credibility on there. So that would be one example.
That's interesting. And Tamara, I mean, when we look at BC, and we talked about this off air, I understand about 1/3 of Canadian energy projects that were to go through BC were stifled by the government there, which is huge for a country of our size. We talked about the decriminalized drug programs and the carnage that's brought upon. You've got native bands making claims on private property. This is going to be a huge story moving forward. What I'm getting at, if you live in that province with these problems and so many more, why vote for the status quo? I don't understand this. I can't get into the mentality of a BC voter that says, yeah, more please.
Well, I think that's
an indicative problem of, sorry, Drea.
No, go ahead. You answered and I'll say.
I think that's a problem Canada-wide. I mean, for example, in Medicine Hat last year, we had our municipal election, and there was a lot of really weird shenanigans that went on locally here. The mayor stopped talking to the council. They had to go to court. It was a bizarre situation. So of course, Medicine Hatters, we were really upset and they wanted change. And then what happened when the election came? They voted the same person back in. I don't understand it myself. I don't understand why people keep, doing the same things over and over again and expecting change. Mm-hmm. As far as the moving our resources, out of Alberta, I mean, I guess I'm old school and I have never understood the supply management issues, why provinces are working together to, get our resources to different markets all over the world. It's going to benefit the whole country. So David Eby is, in my opinion, just a virtue signaling buffoon. I think part of the reason that he's in the position that he is with this land grab is because he virtue signaled, and then he had his bluff called. Yeah. So I really hope that I was really lucky. Rebel sent me to the Canada Strong and Free event in Vancouver, and I was able to witness the leadership debate that took place there on the second day. And like you, David, I haven't been following BC politics very much, but I mean, my takeaway, I was really impressed with Carrie Lynn Finlay. I thought she did an amazing job. And it also was not lost on me that the same politicians that are 5 years ago that were, throwing each under the bus for not doing enough land acknowledgements and for not, doing all of the things, the transgender issues, all of that stuff, are now on the other side of the fence, pointing fingers at those people that were. So, we've sort of come full circle. But I really liked Miss Finlay.
I don't know if you know this.
I liked how she.
I don't know if you know this, Tamara, because I found it out in my interview, but she had come out to day one of the trucker convoy send-off. I was there in Delta from BC, and she was there too, apparently. I didn't know that at the time. So I don't know, maybe you would know. Does that potentially make her one of the first conservative MPs to have associated in public with the trucker convoy movement, if it was as they were sending off? I couldn't think of anybody earlier from that party that had done something like that.
Well, I think that's a
Well,
feather in
I
her
bet you
cap
there was
as
some
far as
there.
I'm
You
concerned.
think so? What was that?
I was just going to say, I'm sure that there was some other MPs and politicians that were at some of these events as we were crossing the country, but I don't think they were too public about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, I got to ask you, since Drea mentioned Drea 1, Tamara, I remember the very, very early days of the trucker convoy, beginning in BC, of course, and the mainstream media coverage originally reporting that this was a protest against environmental issues.
It was they said it was a protest against. They said it was a protest. They were protesting the road conditions in BC.
Oh my gosh. Can we just share with the people joining us today, like what was going through your minds? I'll start with myself and then you guys, when you realized how big it was. Like I was like I said, I went out, I think it was like 5:30 in the morning to the trucker send off, and I was thinking like there's gonna be like 5-6 trucks, and I was like, and it was so foggy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if there's this many trucks going from Surrey and there's so many other stops, like how big is this? And then I go home and I see like how many people are at every stop. And this was when, our concerns, the concerns we represent at this outlet, were stifled. So you didn't know how many people related. When was it, what were your guys' thoughts when you realized, oh my gosh, this was huge? Tamara,
first, David.
Oh, sure.
Well, I don't think I can say exactly what I thought out loud on the live stream, but it was holy crap. Basically, as you know, we did not expect in a million years to have received that kind of support. And even just leaving Medicine Hat, I wasn't, I joined here, or I left from Medicine Hat, and just seeing the people in my community at the overpasses and along the highways, parked in the ditches, waving and with their flags. It was very surreal because I think a lot of us felt like a lot of us did feel like we were alone. I mean, we couldn't have these conversations in the open. People were afraid to talk to their friends and family about how they felt about what was going on because you were just instantly smeared or canceled. So it was, it definitely bolstered us forward for sure to see that kind of support, but it did shock us for sure.
My takeaway, ladies, was I was unable, due to illness, to get out to the first weekend. I think it was the last Saturday in January, in which Ezra addressed that huge crowd. I was sick in Toronto, and I was listening. I'll never forget this. It was 680 radio, and it was coverage of the demonstration. And what the focus of the story is how the demonstrators desecrated and vandalized the statue of Terry Fox. And because there were no visuals, it was radio, I put my head down on the table and I said, oh no, how could they? Who's doing this? Then I learned the desecration and vandalism was draping Terry Fox in the Canadian flag. By the way, not unprecedented. You see that happening on Dominion Day. During Pride festivities, the Pride flag is draped over Terry Fox. Oh, no, but that's not desecration and vandalism. That's celebration. And the point I'm getting to is, thank God, Rebel News and other independent media and the likes of Andrew Lawton, who wrote a sensational book at warp speed about the truth of the convoy, happened. Otherwise, we would be listening to this crap and believing all the manufactured lies. I think it is one of the lowest points in history of Canadian mainstream media, how they covered the trucker convoy.
Absolutely. Well said.
They were disgusting. And even, going back to APTN, I remember shortly after I was released from jail the first time, which is still so funny, I have to say that. I got a letter, I got an email from my lawyer, who was Diane Magus at the time. Now, I don't know if you remember, but APTN put a highly questionable article about me, claiming my Métis heritage, questioning my Métis heritage. So, but if I would have been in Ottawa for Black Lives Matter or, burning a train track or vandalizing trains, there would have been no question. And I'd be, I'd have the Order of Canada by now. So we did respond. My lawyer said, you don't have to respond to this. It's, who cares what they think, which is true. But I said, I've got no problem doing it. So I sent him my genealogy report. I sent him my Métis card. And so then they put a little itty bitty, retraction. They had this big story basically insinuating that I'm a liar. And then just little teeny retraction, not even an apology, mind you.
Wow. It should have been a news story, and that you're supposed to cover it equally to correct the record to an equal degree. So
I'm not surprised, Tamara, because I'm sure their narrative, even after you proving them wrong, was, yeah, she's a native, but she isn't thinking like a approved native, you see, so we still dismiss her.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Unbelievable.
I'm the native they don't like.
Yes. Drea, was there another BC issue you wanted to bring to the table?
No, I think I summarized it all. I think
Okay, then. Well, let's sit back to Ottawa. We have some video of Ottawa Police Sergeant Ali Togrol revealing a undercover operation. Oh, what could this be about? Let's check out this video.
Will officers determine whether the symbol is sufficiently connected to hatred versus political expression, especially in complex geopolitical contexts?
Perhaps we can throw that at Mr. Toggle?
Yeah.
We recognize that, hence why within 2 weeks of the mass number of demonstrations that we had after October 7th, we initiated the mobile hate crime unit, which included having hate crime trained members participate in demonstrations, because again, it's unfair to put everything on our frontline officers.
Well, officers.
I find this staggering because I'm sure it's the same in Ottawa, although I haven't witnessed those demonstrations firsthand. But when it comes to the pro-Hamas camps in Toronto, going undercover, are you kidding? Just look at them from across the street. You are seeing chants for genocide, the display of swastikas, people cosplaying as terrorists like Sinwar, going into Jewish neighborhoods, vandalizing and firebombing synagogues and Jewish-owned businesses. What's the undercover sting? It's right there. They're not even hiding it. Do you get this?
That's an excellent point. I mean, they wouldn't know the crime if it slapped them in the face, like you said, because they're literally right there. You don't have to go undercover and be a super sleuth to figure out what's going on. But I mean, there's obviously, especially in Toronto, I think our law enforcement has some serious problems, as we're seeing slowly unfold in Toronto. How that police chief still has a job is really beyond me.
Oh, if anyone can, you know what? I'll tell you what I think, Tamara, because that is the biggest question of all. It's almost barely a week goes by without a scandal happening on Chief Demkew's watch. I truly believe, and I have no proof, it's just a theory, he's got a file on some important people in Toronto, maybe even the mayor, who knows, and he's too much of a liability to cut loose because of their careers. Other than that, I have nothing. It does not make sense why he's still employed. What say you, Drea?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, officials and bureaucrats that still have their jobs, and it doesn't make sense. Perhaps they all know too much. I don't know. I'll get my tinfoil hat over here. But they're in too deep, and they're going along with the narrative often. I don't know a whole lot about this person specifically because he's in Ontario, so.
All right, then. Why don't we move along to, this is a story, and I can't believe the Carney Liberals will dig their heels in on this issue, given the stakes at play, i.e. a trade deal with the U.S. I thought we would have had that now. I thought that was the, rationale of elbows up. Which, by the way, is that not the most stupid slogan in Canadian political history? I don't know if you're hockey fans, you go into the boards with elbows up, you're getting a penalty. It's called, shockingly, elbowing, but never mind. And what I get at is the CRTC raising the Canadian content funding requirement for streamers in a move that could deepen the U.S. rift, which already stinks right now. We're supposedly having negotiations in July about the trade agreement. I think, and we know Trump hates this, if this isn't off the table, there's no way in hell Canada is getting a trade deal with the U.S. Why would the Carney Liberals not bend the knee on the, take one for the team, so to speak, on this streaming requirement? Because the Trump administration are not fans. What say you?
Let me go ahead. Drea.
We'll start with you, Drea.
Okay, what say I? Okay, so I didn't make it down this far on our list here. We've been seeing this. What say me? Do you know anything, Tamara? Do you want to jump in? I was just reading
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I think two things. Number one, I think Mark Carney is literally deliberately trying to provoke the United States be based on his actions. He blew into Canada, said he was the Trump whisperer. He was going to solve all of our problems and get us a good trade deal. And every single thing that he's done has been exactly the opposite and led to the opposite. I think we're also talking about a government that is running out of money, and they're just going to try and grab onto it wherever they can. I mean, what is the point of this? And if we're going to have more Canadian content, what does that mean? More CBC programming?
Oh, yeah. And this is a direct attack on the revenue of these streamers. And yes. I don't think it's going to sit well. And I mean, like, to die on this hill, given what's happening in the aluminum industry, the auto manufacturing industry, it makes no sense other than this, Tamara, to your point. Brookfield, I think, is basically running the country right now, and Brookfield is a U.S. company. It was moved from Toronto to New York. That was one of Carney's big lies that didn't get nearly the publicity it deserved. Oh yeah, that wasn't done on his watch. No, it was done on October 31st, 2024. Happy Halloween! And Carney was indeed chair of the company then. That was his first big lie, and he got off scot-free. So I think if there are U.S. interests that are benefiting from a weakened Canada, well, that's good for business as far as Carney is concerned in terms of his stock portfolio.
I have some thoughts now. Okay, so if you go out a little further and you see what Canada is doing, it does look like communism, and it does look like controlling the narrative. So we've already seen that Canadian news isn't freely shared on Facebook. It's not freely shared on Instagram, not to the fault of Meta, I would say, but just to the fault of the Liberals and how they're strong arming. We see Signal. Signal has come out saying, hey, we might step away from Canada because we are not going to conform to what they're doing. And we know Signal is supposedly, no guarantees from me, but a secure way for us to talk. So now Canadians potentially, because of these rules that Canada is coming up with, might lose that avenue of communication. We see that there is this desire for the Liberals to limit youth being online. So up to age 16, they want to put restrictions. Now, I think there's enough evidence to support that. As a mom, I think we do need to get kids off social media and screens. However, I don't think the Liberals are probably doing it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And that could be all about controlling the narrative and strengthening propaganda. So,
you know what? And this is a very important point, because you see the lawyers of Signal and Meta and Apple saying the legislation as it is, they will not support, because the Liberals, if you look at the nitty-gritty wording of that legislation, they can get into your data unauthorized. And I don't know, when I hear the public safety minister, Gary Andang Sangari, hopefully I got his name right this time, saying, oh, no, there's nothing to worry about. If it's going with Gary's word versus the legal teams, of Silicon Valley multi-billion-dollar corporations, I think I know who I'm siding with. So, again, another stupid thing to die on, and it's all about surveillance. I mean, the government has to learn they work for us, we don't work for them, right? So, did I say that right, or did I screw that up? Anyways, I get so emotional about what's going on right now with these.
Well, we have another case. We have another case of the Canadian government saying, hey, we would just like to have access to the back door of everyone's devices, all of their devices, but we pinky promise swear we'll never abuse it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, where have we seen that before? Number one. Number two, I'm going to tell you, they're doing it anyways. They are literally doing this stuff anyways. And I know for a fact that my phone, that I am still surveilled. I don't know if you remember, but during the Freedom Convoy, there was a spy plane that flew over Ottawa, scraping the data off of all those phones. And they still have all that data. We don't know where it is. We don't know who it's been shared with. And as far as we know, they're still using it to track a lot of us. And this is coming from my friends in the military. So they're going to abuse it. They're already abusing it. The reason I think they're trying to push through all of these censorship bills and online harms acts is because they don't want to get in trouble. I mean, which is ridiculous because they're not being held accountable for it anyways, but they're just trying to make it legal so that they're not going to get in trouble.
Well, you know what? And that's not conjecture. We did an interview with an ex-Ottawa police service officer whose phone and computer were spied on during the convoy. It was absolutely outrageous. But before we wrap, I've said this anecdote before with Sheila. I'm going to tell you something. I think finally in my life I have identified a business opportunity for you ladies and our audience. And it's this, burner phones, right? Everybody should be getting a burner phone in case they feel they're going to be apprehended at the border or surveyed upon. I go back to, it was 1993. Apple was dead company walking. It's before the smartphone and all that. The only reason they had any market share were graphic designers using Apple computers versus, Microsoft. And you could get Apple stock for $5. And I had come into 29,000 at the time. So Apple stock or a Honda Prelude? Well, I bought a Honda Prelude, which ended up being worth $25 million. I invested in Apple. So this time I'm betting on burner phones. What say you?
I've had to use a burner phone for journalism.
There you go.
Especially when you're tracking Antifa and you don't want them knowing your number.
Yes.
Right.
Good strategy.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can have all my data, and we'll see you all in the gulags.
Oh, jeez. Anyways, before we wrap, Drea, do we have any super chats?
Last I checked, we didn't. Did we get any? We do not.
Unbelievable.
Oh, okay, well, hopefully people had fun. I had fun.
I had fun. And, I got to say, Tamara Lich, thank you so much for spending the hour with us as our beloved Freedom Ambassador. You are a true attribute to our company. So thank you so much for your wisdom and insight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. This was a blast. Have a great weekend, you guys.
100%. And there you go, folks. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank God it's TGIF. I think I screwed that saying up too. In the meantime, stay safe and stay sane.
Fourth, pass the stand on guard principle. Self-defense is a right that all Canadians should have. If someone comes into your home, you should be allowed to use any force you believe necessary, including lethal force, to stop them, and the law should clearly indicate that you are acting within your right when you do that. And to the criminals who consider burglarizing a home, if you don't want to be harmed, then don't burglarize a home. It's a very simple solution to avoid getting hurt. Don't burglarize homes. If you do, the homeowner should have the right to take you out. Amend Section 34 of the Criminal Code so that force is presumed to be justified and allowed when used against an illegal intruder. Canadians should not have to wonder whether justice will punish them for defending their homes, their family, or their property from a criminal who broke in.